Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I am Rosalind Denning, a member of the Board of Directors for the Black Women's Agenda, Incorporated. On behalf of our president, Guinevere Catchings-Hess, welcome to the Black Women's Agenda, I Am the Change, a step-by-step guide to entrepreneurial economic empowerment webinar series sponsored by the Coca-Cola Company. The Black Women's Agenda, Incorporated, or BWA, was founded in 1977 to highlight and address those issues that uniquely impact the lives of Black women and their families. Currently, celebrating our 47th year, BWA continues to work tirelessly to serve millions of women in the areas of education, health, and economic empowerment. Working with and through our 24 national collaborating organizations, BWA's programs have national recognition and global impact. We are pleased to host this event in collaboration with our national collaborating organizations. This month-long webinar series is a continuation of our financial webinar series launched last year. The webinars will be held every Thursday evening this month at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Let's begin tonight's program. I will introduce our instructor, and after his panel discussion, I will introduce our distinguished panel and serve as the moderator. Our instructor, Martin Booker, brings a wealth of experience and expertise in financial education, where he successfully led various financial initiatives for AARP Incorporated. His focus on investing, Social Security, retirement planning, budgeting, and more has significantly contributed to the organization's mission of serving its membership base. Martin completed the Certified Financial Planner program at Georgetown University, equipping him with the skills to teach others about money in a practical and actionable manner. He served as the instructor for our previous three-part economic empowerment webinar series. So now please join me in welcoming Martin Booker.
Hello, Rosalind. Thank you so much for that introduction. I really appreciate it. And I'm so excited to be here with you all today. So this is going to be a great conversation. Let me get some slides up for you all. And we're talking about entrepreneurship. Just when we think about economic empowerment and what's going to take us to that next level in our ability to earn money, to create freedom and a lifestyle for ourselves. This is one of those pieces to that, right? So you can always go back on the Black Women Agenda site and look at some of the conversations that we've had around money, just setting up the basics, setting up that foundation to grow our money, to keep our money, to spend our money, to make money, right? But now we're diving into entrepreneurship. And we're going to talk about all of the ways that we can build. So starting today, we're talking about some of the basics. We're going to go a lot deeper into this over the next couple of weeks, but we want to start off with just making sure that we understand, where do we start when we're trying to discover that financial journey, when we're trying to think about what we do next and all of those things, right? So I invite you to use the Q&A feature for this conversation. And make sure, and I also invite you to stay around because we have panelists who have been entrepreneurs, illustrious entrepreneurs, much longer than I've ever been able to dabble in entrepreneurship. So you're going to hear some real life examples, learn from some folks who have really been in the field, some women who have truly taken on entrepreneurship in an amazing way. So we're going to start with this conversation where I'm breaking down some basics, and then you're going to hear from some people who have done this for a long time and who've been successful at it. So I want to make sure that you stay around for that portion as well. So with no further ado, let's dive into some of what we want to know about building and starting that entrepreneurial journey. So to start, we got a disclaimer. So everything that we talk about, this is not meant to be legal or financial advice. I'm providing information for you that you'll be able to use on your journey. Right. And all of our journeys are going to be different. These journeys are all personal because we all come from different places. We have different lifestyles. We have different abilities. Some of us have a safety net like no other. Some of us have folks that are going to be able to invest in our journey like no other. And some of us are going to start from the beginning. We're going to do this on our, with every bit of our skill and our desire from and we're going to build it from the ground up. So we're going to all have different journeys. Some of us are going to take on a business that has been running from family members or from friends or from someone else. But it's all a part of the entrepreneurial journey, and your story is your story. So the advice that I give you is going to be, the information that I give you may not be personal advice specifically for you, because you want to make sure that you talk to someone who's seen your journey, who understands your story, so that you can get direct advice from that person. So what are we going to talk about tonight? We're going to talk about a few different things. When we start off talking about the entrepreneurial journey, I want to start off with making sure that you understand your why. Why are you doing this? What do you, in that discovery phase, where do you want to be? What type of business do you want to do? Why are you even thinking about going into business? Is it about money? Is it about a passion? Is it out of frustration? What could it possibly be? But we want to get clear on that. Then we're going to talk about your end goal, because that one of the important things that you want to do is begin with the end in mind. Where am I ending? How does this finish for me? If I start this business, do I see it through for the rest of my life? Is this something that I'm doing and then I'm passing on? Am I looking to sell this thing? What is the journey for me? But we want to begin with the end in mind. Then we're going to talk about research. What are some of the things that you can do to get a competitive edge, to understand where you're headed? Because preparation is always going to be key to success. Then we're going to talk about how we test our products or our services. And I want to talk about some of the myths and some of the realities of entrepreneurship. And then we get to dive into a conversation with some entrepreneurs who have been doing this for a long time. So let's get started. And as I mentioned, use the Q&A function. If you have questions, put your questions in the chat. If I'll either answer your questions, or we'll make sure that the esteemed panelists that join us will be able to answer your questions if it's not me. So let's keep the questions rolling in. Anything that's on your heart, anything that's on your mind about entrepreneurship, please put it there. So let's start off with talking about the types of businesses that you might start. When you think about what you're going to do, let's talk about why you might get into business. So first, you might start off thinking, what is it in the market? Is there a market shortage? Is there something that you've noticed through the work that you've done, through experiences that you've had? Is there something you've discovered? Did you have an epiphany or an aha moment about something that was missing in the market? Was that what got you into business? Because you happened to notice that there was a shortage somewhere. There was something that a place where you could show up and you could create demand, because they didn't have this product in your area. There was a service that you knew that you could take advantage of in your area, or in the country or in the world, because there was a shortage there. That could be one of the first reasons that you think about, there's a business, a service, or a product where you could tap into that market. Or maybe just a matter of something that's frustrating, right? When you think about your day-to-day life and the things that you do, what's something that you wish that you had? Something that could be more convenient. You're just like, you know what? If I could just figure out a way to get this thing done, if I was able to do that, because the process has been frustrating so much to manage it in this way, and there's not a service that's out there that can manage this. Could that possibly be what's leading you when you think about your entrepreneurship journey? Is there something that's just very frustrating, and for you, you're like, if I fix this thing, and am I the only one that's frustrated, right? And you just start there with polling your friends, just talking to people. What is it what's missing? Why are we frustrated in this way? What could we possibly get that could fix this? And is that thing a necessity? It could be a necessity, or it could just be something out of convenience. Because there's luxury businesses, and there's businesses that are built on convenience. But if you notice that there's a place where in your life there's something that consistently just nags at you, then think about, is there a business model here? Is this something that I could do? And is there something that I could fix within that space? And then the other thing is, which skills can you monetize? Is there a way that you can kind of look at something that you do very well and think, how can I possibly make more money off of this? So for a long time, I consider myself a dualpreneur. So I'm in the space where I work full time, but then there are also opportunities that I'll take advantage of just because of skill sets that I have, or things that I've noticed that, hey, this is something that I can also be paid to do. When I initially started doing that, one of the first things that I did is I leaned into the space that I was in, being a financial expert. I thought, okay, this is where I thrive. And the reason that I thrive is because this is a topic that I know so well. But then when I started teaching on personal finance, one of the things that I've noticed is that through some of the businesses that I would contract with to teach, they would ask me, hey, can you branch out and talk about, I remember the first thing they asked me to do was to do a training on Excel, on Microsoft Excel. I said, nope, it's not my topic. I teach about personal finance. That's my lane. That's what I do. And that's what I made. I made it very clear that this is the lane that I stay in because this is where my expertise lies. And to me, I thought that, I can speak and I can present on this topic because I know it so well and I'm passionate about it. But then they continued to ask me to speak on other topics because they said, hey, you connect with people well, you train well, you are someone who we believe can speak on multiple topics. It took me about 3 years before I realized that the skill that I had wasn't just built on the knowledge that I knew. It was actually something that I could actually teach on. So I gave myself permission to branch out and try other topics. And what did that do for me? That allowed me to build a business that would span far beyond just personal finance. It allowed me to get into just training, leadership, learning and development. Because what I realized is that this isn't just about the finance part. This is a skill that you have and the opportunity to connect to people and be able to break down concepts in a way that people understood. That was about the skill, not just the knowledge base that I had. So that's where, you can lean in. Sometimes you may be starting a business just based on a skill. It may not be a passion. It may not be out of frustration. It's just something that you're really good at. And you say, you know what? I can use that to start to and start to monetize it. And you may start off the way that I did. You start off continuing to work, but then, hey, let me continue to lean into this and do it as a consultant or do it as a side hustle to then build up to it. And when we think about that, I always think about these two individuals. We have someone like Tyler Perry who built his business, right? He was passionate about what he did. He loved what he does, and he saw the purpose in what he was doing, right? He wanted to bring stories to life and add levity to these stories and do it in a way to allow people to see themselves on screen, right, or to see themselves in plays, right? And he was good at it. But he also found that to be a place of passion. And then if you listen to the story of Kevin Durant, he's a NBA basketball player, U.S. A national champ. He's he's won some USA. He's won the Olympics in basketball. Probably one of the top 5 basketball players in the world. Kevin Durant will tell you when you listen to his story, he talks about how he played multiple sports growing up. And he said that basketball came easy to him, which is why he stuck with it. He said when he played baseball, he played football, he would play multiple sports, but he said basketball just came extremely easy. And so he went with the skill that was the easiest for him and the thing that worked very well for him. And he used that and became one of the best basketball players of all time. But that was just a matter of finding the thing that worked, the thing that came easy, and he took that and just honed in on that craft and became one of the greatest to ever do it. Right. So that's just that difference between, hey, purpose and passion, and just simply saying, hey, I'm great at this. Let me lean into that. Let me play to my strengths. So that's what he did. He decided, let me play to my strengths completely because I'm just good at it. And it comes very easy to me. So when you think about the business that you might want to start, think about, do that inventory for yourself and decide, hey, is this, what are the things that I just naturally do well? What do people compliment me consistently on and always say, hey, you're great at that. This is a place where you thrive. Are you the most organized person? And if people walk into your place and they just say, oh, it looks amazing in here. How did you even think to do that, to put that together the way that you did? Is there something in that where you're just like, hey, this just comes natural. I don't even have to think about this. This is easy for me, right? What is that? Is there a business behind that? Can you monetize that if you needed to? This is just a place, something to think about. Or is it that burning desire within you, that thing that you love to do? So for me, I had a mix of both of these things. For me, personal finance means the world to me. To me, that's how we bring each other up, right? You change households, you change families, you change communities by by seeing people's finances in order. This is how we serve each other and we make change in the world. And then I allowed myself to do what I noticed came pretty easy to me, which is connect and talk and share experiences and take difficult concepts and make them simple. And that allowed me to expand on what I was already doing. So it's, there's the deep passion, but then there's other parts of what I do, and that allows me to be the speaker, the instructor, the trainer, and it's helped me to expand my business even more by mixing those two spaces and creating a business out of it. So for you, think about it. Where's that space for you? What are you great at? What comes extremely easy to you? What are you most passionate about? Now, when you think about that, here's a couple of things that you can to keep in mind. And I want to point out one more thing about that with that last slide, because everything that you do, I want to make sure that we think about this, because there's a lot of people that always tell you, chase your passion. It won't feel like work, and that's true. That is true indeed. But also, if you started a business that's based on profits and you building profits, just know that that's okay too, right? No path is the wrong path. Just remember what your ultimate purpose is and make sure that what you do is going to ultimately excel you towards your purpose. If your purpose is to set yourself up so that you can raise your family in a healthy way, or in a way that's simple for you, or that makes that works for the lifestyle that you want to create, that's okay. And if you chose profit in that case so that you can set yourself up to be able to be home with your children, that's okay as well, right? So we want to make sure that I always want to point that out, that if you focused on passion or if you focused on profit, ultimately where you want to be is you want to make sure that your end goal and your why is what you meet. So just keep that in mind. Now, when we think about the business that we start, I always like to say we like to begin with the end in mind. So what exactly do I want to do ultimately with this business? Right? So if we're thinking legacy, you have a couple of options. We want a legacy business. When we think legacy, we're thinking, this is a business I want to be in, and I may want to pass this down. So in that case, you may put your last name on it, right? You may put your family name on this business because this is something that you want to see carried out for the rest of your life. And then when you're starting a business like that, some of the things that you have to think about is, hey, let me invest in a pipeline. Let me think about training and mentorship. Let me think about who's taking over this business, because this is something that I want to continue, in the family. This is something that I want to see my children and my children's children, or I want to see some, a nephew or a niece or someone in my family continue to build this and carry it on. And I want that legacy to be there. So you may put a lot more in place when you're thinking about legacy. You might document in a different way the journey, because you want to tell that story. You want people to see it and be a part of the business that you have. So you want to think about that in the beginning, right? As you're preparing for that. Or are you thinking, hey, I'm building this up. I want to make a certain amount of money and then I want to sell, which is okay too, right? You may be setting yourself up to, hey, I'm putting everything I can into this for 5 years. And after that time, I want to sell this business and I want to be on to something different. So, and in that case, you have a specific timeline. You have a shorter timeline. So you want to ramp up fast. You want to put a lot of effort and energy into building that business and getting it to the place that you want, so that you can then part ways with that business and move on to the next thing that you want to do. So you want to keep that in mind. Like, where do I ultimately want to be with this business? And you want to start by thinking about that and thinking about where you're headed when you have that business, or when you start that business. Now, the other thing that we want to think about is you. Where are you in the business? Because in the beginning, you might have to play a lot of roles, right? You're the accountant, you're the receptionist, you're so many pieces of the business. You're PR, right? You're head of operations, you're everything. But at some point, you have to hone in on what skill do you bring to the business, and where can you show up the best? Where are you going to be able to show up so that you can be successful? And then I always like to say we play to our strengths and we staff our weaknesses. So there are areas in the business where you know you're going to be strong. And then there are some things that you do not want to touch for too long because it's not going to stay well, right? So if you stay in it for too long, which is perfectly fine, because that's that part about awareness. Awareness is so important. It's one of the keys to that. Self-awareness matters so much in business and in life and in every other facet of our life, right? So realize where you're going to be the best, where you'll be the strongest, and then you start to bring the people around you and put the systems and the processes in place to make sure that you can cover the areas where you won't be as strong in the long run. So that's something you want to think about. Where am I going to be best, right? Are you truly the publicist? Are you the one that want to speak about the business? Or are you someone that can build the entire back end and make sure that everything's running well? But ultimately, you need someone to go out and be the megaphone for you. And I want you want to think about that in the early parts of your business. Because even when you get beyond the point of having to do most of it yourself, you want to make the right hires first. And this is where that SWOT analysis can come in place, right? So you're thinking about your strengths, your weaknesses, your opportunities, and your threats. Where am I showing up the best? And where can my business show up the best? Where am I going to struggle? Where are the opportunities for me to, go into market? The opportunities for me to show up, right? Is it in networking rooms? Is it in the spaces where you can inspire people? Is it in opportunities for you to volunteer and show people that, hey, look, I do this very well. You can hire me to do this and we can monetize it. And then where are the threats? Where are the areas where you know that you could be you may be a threat to your business, or the things that can be a threat to your business, the things that can disrupt your business. If your business is built heavily on a grant making model, then you want to pay attention to the landscape and be able to understand where might there be some issues, but also just where, if we're starting with just you, where might you be a detriment to your own company, right? And that takes a lot of self-awareness and you thinking about, hey, this is where I'm great, but this is where I'm not. I may not be the best at managing the finances because when the money comes in, I may not make the right business decisions first. So that's where you may be a threat to your own business, and you have to decide, hey, the first thing I need is an accountant. I need someone who can manage the money for this business so that I'm not in my own way and I'm not spending down every dollar that I need for my business, right? So that's something you want to make sure that you're thinking about and you're realizing, where do I show up the strongest? Where do I need people to show up and make sure that I'm okay? So you want to think about those things as well when you're considering your business. Now, when it comes to doing some market research and thinking about where can I show up? Where can I, how do I understand my competitors? How do I understand who I can collaborate with? If you're selling a product, how do I understand pricing? How do I understand the things that sell best? This works really well. And in this example, we're kind of thinking about like a product-based business. So your market research is always going to be a continual process. You're going to do this and you don't necessarily stop. But when you're at that point of thinking about launch or you're thinking about expansion, you may be in a position where you need to go and test the market. So one of the things you can look at is like Google Trends. They created a great tool for doing that. If you decided you wanted to be in like Airbnb service or short-term rentals in some way, they have tools that will allow you to go and look into an area or a zip code and just see how often are rentals happening in this area? How many days within a month on average do people rent in this neighborhood? These are things that you can do before you make your first purchase. When you're in the process of deciding, hey, I'm selling dresses, they can break down and they can tell you what colors work best. So if you look at this example, in this picture here, they show you blue dresses happen to sell a whole lot more than red dresses and yellow and green. And they actually show you over time what that looks like. Right. So if you were starting a business, you can run this type of market research just to give yourself a sense of what works. You may be starting with two products, but you might say, hey, even though yellow's my favorite. That's what I really want to sell. But overall, Blue tends to be the highest part of tends to trend higher than anything else. So you happen to, you need at least one SKU that matches what the market is demanding, right? So these are opportunities for you to do the research and to truly understand what's out there, what's really selling, what's going to be in my favor, and what's going to work to my benefit in a business. So keep that in mind. These are things that you want to think about, and you can do this before you start. Before you even sell your first product, while you're sitting on an idea, you can start to do some market research. And if it's something that you can't dig into, say a tool like Google Trends to learn from, then start with just polling your friends, having conversations. Does this make sense? We always have those really entrepreneurial friends or those people who are just deep thinkers, and we can just have conversations and just try to get a sense of what are people thinking? How do people like this idea? What do people think of, what is this the craziest idea that I've ever thought of? Just run it by a few people who you trust and get their thoughts, and then start to dig into what's out there. Is this a space that's oversaturated? Is this a space where there is a high demand? And figure out kind of what you need in order to do that. And this is something you're going to do throughout your entire journey as an entrepreneur. You're going to continue to dig into the research and figure it out. But just know that there are free tools out there. You can start with things like ChatGPT, Google Trends, just Google keywords, just typing in, you can make an entire business plan in ChatGPT, right? Just ask, you got to learn learn the right questions to ask, continue to talk to the tool, and they're going to pull as much information for you as possible, so that you can be successful at getting started with what you need. So that's another thing that you want to keep in mind. Within the research process, use all of the tools available to you, use all that's out there, and just dig around and kind of get a sense of what's going on. Another great thing to do is look at what's selling out. Go to websites, go look at clothing brands, go and see what's consistently selling. Even as a consumer, if you were going to start to sell clothing, pay attention to the sizes that are always sold out. Those are those average sizes for people, right? You can look at it and you can always see for the popular items what sizes are always left in stock and which ones are always sold out. That gives you a sense of kind of where you might want to be when it comes to some of the sizes that you start with, when you're purchasing things. I always know, one of the things as a consumer, I know I always pay attention to when I go to the clearance rack. There's always specific sizes that are always available in men, and just for me, in men's clothing, right? I look up, for some reason, a size 31 is always available. And that's a pretty small waist, I guess, for a guy, and right. So it's like that size just happens to be available the most, or smalls are always left. But when you look kind of within that medium large, I'd say large, extra large, that size tends to sell out the fastest. And then the of course the larger, smaller ones may be left over, but that'll give you a sense of, okay, there are a lot of people within this range, right? So you just start to pay attention to those things if that's what you're looking to do. All right, another thing you can do is a business canvas. So this is a great way for you to kind of look and start to learn about your business. You can start to map out. We want to do some research before you even testing your product. You're doing this, and this is like a business model. It's a tool that you can use to just map out like different parts of your business, some of the important things that you need. So if you want to look at like the key actors, right? Who's going to be instrumental to making your business successful? Who are the people you need to work with? Is it going to be government, right? Is it going to be other small businesses? Is it individuals, right? Who are you selling to? Who's going to be key? Who's going to be the megaphone for you? Who's going to be the funders? All of these things. Who's going to be some of the most important people to make sure that you're successful? So we think, a tool like this you can use to look at like your partners, look at your activities. What do you need to do first? What are some things that you're going to do ongoing, right? And even if you're just jotting this out, you have a great idea and you want to use this as just like a starting blueprint, just a starting point to get a sense of, hey, what am I going to do? Who do I need to have around just to flush a couple of things out? Who's going to be my customer? Is it going to be an individual or will it be a business? What channels will I use to deliver this product? Is it going to be online? How does it have to be delivered? And actually, I'm going to make sure I'll send you this exact document. We'll make sure that we drop it in the chat for you all, or we'll make sure that you have a copy of it. I have the link directly to this canvas, but this is just a good way to think through your business. And, and even the cost structure. What type of things do you have to pay for? How are you going to pay for it? And then thinking about your revenue streams. Are they going to be, can you make money online? If you have a business, can you sell courses, but can you also sell a product, right? I've watched how much the beauty industry has grown, where folks have started off in the service industry, right? Of doing hair, and then they start selling subscriptions or they start selling products, right? Because you start to think through, what are the other ways to have an advantage in this business? And how do I continue to make more? Right? How do I continue to increase, especially if it's a service business? How do I expand myself? How do I go beyond just me? How do I replicate what I do? And if I can't, then what else can I add in to make sure that we can scale, right? Because scaling an individual can be hard, right? So we may have to turn to tech, we may have to turn to products. There are all types of things that we may have to think through as to add in when we think about revenue streams. So you want to think about that. What can I do? What else can I add in? How do I, and this is going to help you to test out some of the things that you're thinking. When you start to write it down, that's when it becomes real, and it's going to help you to think through, where am I going and what am I actually trying to do? So this is a good starting point. And as I mentioned, put your questions in the chat. If there are things you want to know, things you want to know about, you want clarity on anything, please add it here. But this is some of the things that we want to think about as a starting out entrepreneur, when we're first getting started. But then also, if you're in your business and you haven't done something like this, you want to add it in there. You want to start to think this through. Who are the people that's going to help me be successful? For me, a key partner is other small businesses, in some cases big businesses, because they're the individuals who have some of the contracts where they can subcontract me in, right? That's where I can find opportunities to find key partners. What's the value proposition? When you think through, if you're a trainer, if you're a teacher, what is it that you bring to the table that others may have it, but what is it what's your true value? What's the thing that you can bring in that others, where in the industry, you see this as something that stands out for you? And then you can test that with other people, right? Let it, is it something that you've been told to start? But then also, when you continue to teach, or when you continue to train, is that also coming out from other people? Are other people telling you that? Are you hearing that? If it's a service business, are people saying that this is a value that you bring that I've never experienced before? I know for me, I have a lady barber. There's something specific about having with a lady barber. She pays a lot more attention. She's a lot more professional. She just the conversations that we have when she's cutting my hair, I trust her opinion. When I think about the haircuts that I'll get, she's honest with me. It's a experience and it's value that she brings, and I'll tell you, it's hard to get in her chair, right? Because she's found her value proposition in just being herself, but also providing amazing cuts. I could probably find a cut just as great, but it's the rest of the experience that she brings that provides value, and the reason that I'll travel across town to make sure that I'm in her chair versus somebody else's. So what's that value proposition that you could bring in those cases? Something else to think about. All right, now we're in this position where we need to, one of the important things that you want to be able to do is truly test out your product or your service, and do it in a way that's affordable, and in some cases before you're making money. And sometimes you got to test it while you're making money, right? So you have to, go back to the drawing board and just see, hey, is this really working in my favor? Does what I'm doing actually work for me? Right. So you want to figure out those ways to affordably test. And sometimes, and that's the investment in your business or in your product. You may have to say, hey, if I'm selling product, can I go to an event and actually just set up, vend at an event? And even if I'm, the ceiling would be to make one sale. I'm going here just to learn, to let people test this thing out, see if they actually like it. right? Because I'm in a big space with lots of traffic. So now I want to see just what do people think of this? And then in that case, you may decide some of the most important things for a small business is just contacts, right? Being able to have people that you can get in contact with to remind them about your business. To, when you drop new products, you put it out. How many times have you're not even thinking about buying something, but when someone reaches out to you often enough, now all of a sudden, you got a pair of jeans in your cart, a pair of jeans or a shirt or a coat that you had no idea that you planned on buying, right? Or you just happen to remember about that massage therapy service that you weren't thinking about at all, or that restaurant that you were about to cook in the house. And next thing you know, you're like, you know what, I wouldn't mind a burger, right? But you got an email, you got some type of message that said to you, I remember, that's a place I want to go check out again, or a place that I want to go to for the first time. But just having contact and being able to reach out to people is very important as well. So sometimes you may pay $200 to vend at an event, and you're going there just to test it out and get a sense of, hey, should I do this more often? Do people actually like what I have? Is this a product? And you get some unbiased opinions, right? Because you get family, you get friends. Some of them will tell you the truth, but some of them also have an affinity for you and just want to support you. So that they might tell you, what you want to hear. You go out to an event where no one knows you and no one knows your product, and you're just telling people to try something out. You'll get a lot of honest feedback. So that's a good way to just get out there and test it out in real life. But it's also testing before you go to the point of creating. You done invested in getting 100 or 1,000 um, 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 of a product, right? Before you've gotten a huge case of product, you bought cases and cases of product. You just went out and tested a few, just to make sure that there is a demand for it and people actually enjoy what you're selling. How can you invest in it in just getting some intel? How much are you willing to invest in that as well? So, use focus groups, use those opportunities to get out in front of people, provide your service initially, possibly for free, do it as a volunteer, right? So, put your time out there, right? So that your people are getting to experience what you have to offer and just get their feedback. But then also say, hey, can I reach out to you? Things like having a raffle. That's always a way to just collect contacts. People will buy stuff from you after an event, just by way of you having their information and then following up. I remember I went with a good friend of mine. I went to help her vend at an event, and we're out there vending, and she put up a raffle for a coat. And it was really nice coach. She said, hey, we're collecting information, and we're going to do just a raffle. We're going to pull a name, and then we're going to send it to them before the holidays are over. Ended up doing that, found a winner, shipped them the coat. The winner went back and bought the other color that they didn't get for free, right? But so, like, just with that opportunity, you giving something away, but then end up also getting a sale, just by way of doing it. But now also had all these email addresses from people who decided to join the raffle, and now has a new list of people who are now seeing the product often and getting that opportunity to hear from the company, go to the website, and just learn more about what they're doing. So in some cases, you're testing, but you're gaining something as well, just by making sure that you're sharing your information with individuals. So so you want to do that. The other thing you can do is when you're launching your business, think about who's the people that you want around you. Who's going to be the people who have been in business or has a skill that you need to leverage, so that you can make sure that you're learning from someone who's going to help take you to the next level, who's going to help to scale your business, who's going to help you think about the type of business that you should run, or the type of structure of business that you should run. You want people who've done this before, right? So you're talking to people who's been in business, who's been successful, or at least who've tried, right? You want to talk to someone who's at least tried this thing before, and they can give you some advice on things that you want to do or that you may not want to do, right? Are you getting a trademark? One of the important things, this was a good lesson that I learned a long time ago. At the point when you're buying your business, when you're incorporating your business, one of the things that you want to do is you want to buy your web domain around the same time. There are people they consider themselves like website sharks. So what they'll do is when you go and register, let's say you decide to register with whatever state you're in for an LLC. When you register, there are people who will go and look at the registrations and get the names of businesses and then buy the websites for those businesses. So, you got martinbooker.com. I went and registered that as Martin Booker LLC. But if I don't go and buy martinbooker.com right away, someone will go and see that I have the LLC and they'll go buy the domain, so that instead of me possibly getting that domain for $50, now I have to go and buy it from them for $400. I learned that from someone who made that mistake, right? Or who just went through that process. So they bought their domain. I mean, they registered their business. They didn't buy the website. And then they were in a position where they had to go and buy the name of they had to go and buy their domain from these individuals. They call them sharks, but that went and bought their website before they got to it before they did. So typically what I do is when I go and register an LLC, within the same breath, I do two things. I go and buy the register the LLC. I go get the EIN number, and I buy the web domain, all within minutes of each other. So I have all of that covered. I know that I have those things taken care of, even if I'm not building the site that day. If I buy that web domain for possibly $56 versus someone else buying it before me, and I have to go and buy it from them for $400, right? So you want to talk to folks who've been there, who's learned from some of these mistakes, who's done these things before, so that they can then walk you through some of these processes. For folks who when you think about the incorporation process, it is very fast. If you talk to someone who's done it, it doesn't take long. You go to your state's website. If you're buying an LLC at least, and it's not a long process. You put in your information, you pay the fees. You might have annual fees that you have to pay, but that's the beauty of working with someone who may have done these things before, because they can help you through this process. They can talk you through it and make sure that you know exactly how to take advantage of some of these things. And then you want to make sure that you understand, all the taxes involved and the fees involved with your state specifically. So take advantage of that as well, so that you're in a position to be prepared for the types of things you're going to pay for and how you're going to pay for them. That's the beauty of working with someone else. All right, let's talk about some of the myths of entrepreneurship. Some of the things that we hear, some of the things that we think that, some of them, are partially true, but we're going to level set a little bit. When we think about things like the idea of, most people, it's like, I'm my own boss, right? It's exciting. It's partially true. There may not be a person that you have to report to anymore. Now you might be reporting to hundreds or thousands of people, right? Because you are now the market trend is your leader, right? The customer is your boss, right? You have someone that you still have to answer to, because you have to provide a quality service that they want to buy. Because if they don't buy, then your business, you don't have a business, right? So you don't have an individual boss that you may have to report to, and you may not have some of the same processes, but now you may be in a position where you're putting a lot more energy and a lot more time into making sure that you have customers that want to buy what you have to offer. So when you think about making profits, you want to think this, you want to think about how you do this, right? You want to make sure that you understand that, hey, this is what I'm selling. This is the service that I'm offering. This is what it's going to cost for me this is what I'm investing into it. This is what I'm making out of it, right? And what you've paid versus minus, what you've paid into it and what you've invested into it, and then what you've made. You have to, you have that first in order to get to profitability, right? So you have to think about, your booth rent, all these things that you've paid for, the amount that you've invested into vending, the amount that you've paid into your space, into your expertise and into all the trainings that you've taken. So we want to make sure we take all of that, and then in order to become profitable, we have to consistently bring people in to purchase the service or the product that we have, right? So we have to make that and we eventually become profitable, but we may not start off that way. I remember hearing someone say once before that one of the things that you have to, when you think about your number and the amount that you want to make in your business, you have to be able to count it. It has to become a real number for you, right? If whatever I'm selling costs $20 per item, and I have to think about how many items I have to sell to hit whatever dollar amount that I want to make to hit my goal. But I have to be able to calculate that myself. If I can calculate that, then I can see it, and and then it becomes real, but it can't be just kind of a mystified number. It has to be something that's real and it's in your mind. So if I sell this X amount of this item, it will make me $100,000. And you can count the items and you know how many you're selling. And you map it out. Where am I selling them? How am I selling them? And how am I moving this number of units in order to be successful? So one of the things when it comes to passion, so this idea that if you're passionate, that you're not going to get tired, you will. You can be passionate about something and still get tired. It can still wear you out. It can still drain you. These are things that will happen, right? So this idea that just because you're passionate about it, they say, you do what you're passionate about, it never feels like work. There are days it's gonna feel like work. I'll be honest. Overall, it feels great and you're energized. It gets you out of bed, but there are parts of everything that's gonna feel like work. So just keep that in mind. And then needing a logo or business name and structure to launch. Let me tell you, there are some people do not let perfection be the enemy of good. You can launch your business. There are steps that you can take without having everything buttoned up and everything being perfect. Get out there and start testing, right? Make sure that people understand what you have. Everything, and make sure that on day one of launching your business or of getting started, you're not comparing yourself to folks who have been in business for 50 or hundreds of years, right? So you want to make sure that, a lot of us are sitting on amazing ideas, but we're thinking, oh, I don't have a logo. I haven't thought of the name of my business. Let me tell you, there are so many parts of business that are going to come to you and that are going to continue to build by way of you just being in business, right? You're going to learn so much and so many things. There's so many iterations that's going to happen by the way of you being in business. All right. So when we also think of some of the parts of entrepreneurship, the cost of everything, it's a passion or profit. They both passion, you may be frustrated at times, right? And when it comes to profit, you're gonna, if you're launching that business that you're in because you just want to make money, you have to ramp up, you have to move fast, right? Because you have to set it up to be able to have someone acquire it. But both of them have different costs. They both have different things that come along with that. So you want to be, sometimes when it's something you're passionate about, the blind spots are there because you're so in love with it. Sometimes it's hard to let go or to pull yourself back or to delegate, right? So you have to, be aware of where you are and kind of what's happening. The idea of just, you love it, you love everything that you're doing. Still doesn't make it an easier thing to do. Right. So, entrepreneurship, sometimes it's trading in a 40-hour work week for an 80-hour work week. Sometimes you're putting in a whole lot you're putting in a lot more time. But with that in mind, make sure that you do set boundaries, especially if you're working full time and you're an entrepreneur. You want to make sure that you're setting appropriate boundaries. You have time to rest, to recharge, and to think about all the things that you're doing. And there's a lot of things that you're going to learn just by doing, by failing. Fail forward. Just continue to fail forward and make sure that you fail forward, so that you're consistently. But you have to take a step to get closer, right? You have to take a step in order to fall, and then you stand back up and you keep on going, right? But if you standing still is not that won't allow your business to grow and for you to try and to continue to move forward. So take those steps. It's an exciting journey. It can be a lifelong journey. You can start it while you're working. That's the exciting thing about it. And you can test, you can learn, you can continue to build. But the entrepreneurship journey is just a beautiful one. I want to give you all a few resources, and then I want you to hear from this amazing panel of entrepreneurs who are going to take you through a lot more information. So, as I mentioned, continue to put your questions in the chat, share some questions with us, share some information. If you're a business owner yourself, tell us some things that are some helpful tips that you may have. So feel free to talk to us in the Q&A chat and share some things that have worked in your favor as well as an entrepreneur, or things that you think about or resources you've seen. So to start with finding a mentor, when you think about where to find a mentor, we have the Small Business Development Center. These are nationwide centers that you can go and get free one-on-one counseling. So if you're in a position where you want to learn from other entrepreneurs, learn from folks who have resources, definitely use the Small Business Development Centers. A lot of them. I see someone, there we go, we're talking in the chat. Someone said they're so helpful. The SBDCs, Small Business Development Centers, are very helpful. They have them on college campuses, so you can connect with them, and they provide free resources for you. SCORE. This is an organization of retired executives. So these are people who have been there and done that. They've launched businesses, they've scaled businesses, they've been executives at some of the best in Fortune 500 companies, right? So these are individuals who can mentor you and help you out. Then you got the Women's Business Center as a part of SBA, geared specifically towards women to make sure that you have what you need to be successful in business. As I mentioned earlier, when you're doing your market research, you want to look at Google Trends, ChatGPT, take advantage of some of the keyword planners and the business canvas models. Those will all be helpful. When you think of resources to fund Black-owned businesses, you have Black Girl Ventures. I'm a big fan of Black Girl Ventures. They host pitch competitions. There's money to. They host pitches. You can win funds for your business. In some cases, you could be in just the idea phase. In some cases, you may have to have your business up and running, but they have events. So please look them up. And the rest of these, the Fearless Fund, Hello Alice, these are different spaces where you can go and find funding for your business, or find some of the capital to keep you going. Some of the things that you can use to just power your business: ChatGPT, Shopify, MailChimp, to make sure that you're bringing in your marketing and keeping your customers, and then things like Canva for graphic design. So we want to have those different opportunities to make sure that we can keep our business running. And now let's talk about quickly just what we'll talk about next week. And these presentations will be on Black Women's Agenda website. So go back, rewatch, get the resources there as well. But next we're talking about access to capital. We're going to talk about money. How are you funding your business? How are you fiscally responsible as an individual, and preparing yourself to be fiscally responsible as a business owner? So we're going to have that conversation. And now we're going to actually get ready to roll into our panel and hear from this esteemed group of ladies who will be able to share with us about their businesses and some of their experiences. And these videos are also going to be on the Black Women's Agenda YouTube page. So make sure that you go there as well. And with that, we're going to open this up to hear from our panel at this time. So Rosalind, we'll pass it back to you.
Thank you so much, Martin, for that excellent lesson. And now we're going to go into our Entrepreneurship Basics panel. It is my pleasure to introduce this illustrious panel. Germaine Bolds-Leftridge is the founder of I Know Skincare Treatment Solutions. With 30 plus years of beauty industry experience, she embodies this culture, community, and the very demographic of the brand. Her products are intentionally formulated to care and maintain Black platinum skin with natural ingredients to benefit and beautify from the inside out. Nick Cober Esquire is a founder, a principal managing partner, an author, a media influencer, and an advocate for women's empowerment and small business growth. With over 25 years of experience in legal and business consulting, she leads Cober, Johnson, and Romney, CJR, a multi-million-dollar firm. In 2022, Nicole founded the Bold Collective, a conglomerate of businesses which generates over $1.4 billion annually in 25 states. Caroline DeMarco is an award-winning senior leader with over 30 years of management and leadership experience in the pharmaceutical and biotech industries. She is Vice President, Customer Engagement, Northeast Region at Genentech. At Genentech, Caroline partners with the National Accounts Medical Affairs and Therapeutic Area Squad teams to ensure that innovation reaches the patients they serve and is accountable for the region's business performance. Thank you, ladies, for joining us this evening, and welcome to our virtual stage. And
Thank you for having us.
You are welcome. At this time, I'm going to take 5 minutes to ask questions to Germaine and to Nicole, and I'd like for you to answer the following two. How did you know you were ready to be an entrepreneur? And what did you do to become ready to be an entrepreneur? So let's begin with you, Germaine. Can you answer those two, please?
Absolutely. But I would like to first say, Martin, you were so spot on in everything that you said. And I am a serial entrepreneur. I know skincare is just one aspect of what I just started 3 years ago, but I've been in business for over 35 years. And was I ready? Absolutely not. I thought I was, but I was not ready. I was 30 years old when I started my business. The first part of it, GBL Sales, I started March 1st, 1990, and it's a sales and marketing company. It has grown. We've made many millionaires like Mayel Organics, Kenya Moore Hair Care. We represent a lot of brands in the beauty space. And then I started from that Ubiquitous Women's Expo. And that's a 10-year-old brand. And it's all about entrepreneurship at its best and collaboration and helping people to realize that they too can aspire and build legacy wealth. And then I purchased Ambi Skincare from L'Oreal 5 years ago. And then 3 years ago, I started I Know Skincare. Everything that Martin talked about, he was so spot on. And I wish I could say, oh, I was very methodical. Yes, I knew I was going to start a business. How I started was out of necessity. I had an unfair boss. And I just felt at this time, I'm going to determine my future. I'm going to determine how much money I'm going to make. And she will not be the manager of that. And so I got involved and it just created, and I am truly a serial entrepreneur. I've always worked for entrepreneurs. And so it's a different kind of mindset. And Martin said something that was so critical. He's talking about fall forward. And I redefine failure, the word failure. I believe failure is not doing it. And so for me, I have always felt that I'm a risk taker, and it has paid off for me in spades. So I'm just so blessed and so thankful that not only have I been instrumental in other entrepreneurs being successful because I am a servant, but I've also decided after losing my mom, I took my pain and made it power to create my own brand. I've been on Sherry Shepherd, Tamron Hall twice, talking about I Know Skincare and the benefits of why this brand gives you that glow. And so I'm excited. I'm excited for the participants on this webinar. And hopefully you ask a lot of questions, because when I started as an entrepreneur, I didn't have this. This wasn't available, this type of information. We had to learn by mistakes. So please ask your questions and get as much knowledge as possible. But I love being an entrepreneur.
Thank you. Thank you for that. And now let's hear from Nick.
Sure. Thank you so much. And I can echo everything my esteemed colleague Germaine has said. Martin was fantastic. I was he went through every chapter of of my career as an entrepreneur, literally. So I hope everyone was taking copious notes. But to answer your question more specifically in terms of, how did I know or leap into being an entrepreneur and how did I know I was prepared? That's a loaded question. And I think, everyone's entrepreneurship story, as Martin said, is like a thumbprint. Everyone is different, but actually Germaine and I have a somewhat a similar story. So my entrepreneurial journey started almost 25 years ago. And I was an attorney at a large law firm and I was a young mom. And I tell this story all the time because it's my entrepreneurship story. But I was working hard at a prestigious law firm. And I say I was working very hard at being mediocre. And what do I mean by that? That was not my passion, but I was a provider, I was a newly divorced mom, and I felt like this was something that I had to do. And within a month, two things happened. I was let go from my very prestigious law firm job, saying that I wasn't working hard enough. I did not focus enough as a career woman. And at the same time, I was going through a child custody battle. And the judge at the time, he did not have the final say on custody, but he made this anecdotal phrase that if I had to make a decision today, I would give custody to the father because of the mother's demanding work schedule. And so, I don't even think I was 30 years old yet. I wasn't. And I was really at a fork in the road in my life to say, okay, I can either believe what these very, very critical people are saying about me, that I am not a legal mind and I'm not a good mom, or I could be anchored in who I am and really make some choices, not based on fear, but faith. And I did have, I had a dream. I literally had a dream about opening a day spa. And in this dream, I had cloned my beautiful hairdresser at the time. So it was actually, so it wasn't that I had a day spa chain. I actually had a hair salon chain. And I had cloned my hairdresser because she was so wonderful. She gave me great customer service and everything. And I woke up with this passion that I was going to start my first business. Very unconventional, right? I'm a girl from Oakland, California, happened to do okay in school, happened to go to law school. And I found myself really charged from the inside out about learning about entrepreneurship. And so, Rosalind, when you asked me how did I know? I do believe it's a blend between your drive, your passion. I was not a stylist, I was an attorney, but I really loved learning. I was kind of a crazy girl, but I loved putting my business plan together. I loved going to the bank and learning about how to acquire property, all of the steps. And so that was where my passion was. It wasn't necessarily in the service, but it was in the business creation. And that's where the light bulb for me first lit up. And so fast forward, after I closed that business, I went into business consulting. And it took the very best of what I love. I love people, I love processes, and I love strategy. And so as a business consultant at my core and an attorney by trade, I was able to take my real life experiences as an entrepreneur and really help people frame their story and learn, mentor, yes, but coach realistically about, capital and contracts and how to market your business and things. But that's my kind of unconventional story about how I knew it was for me. I really thought that putting a business together was like a beautiful puzzle. It was so exciting to me. And so I would agree with Germaine and our instructor that the passion is going to take you through the valleys and the peaks. If you do something that you're just mediocre at, you will quit. You're like, I don't have to do this crap no more. But if there's something that inspires you about your entrepreneurship journey, whether it is, as Germaine said, maybe it is skincare, maybe it is the beauty industry, or maybe it's just putting things together and being very solution oriented for others. If that is your core, if that is your calling, then you will be anchored in something above the peaks and valleys of whatever your journey is, because you're super committed to it. And I am a woman of faith, and that faith anchors you through this amazing entrepreneurial experience.
Thank you. Thank you for those words of wisdom. And now let's hear from Caroline, who has spoken to women preparing to make career changes. Caroline, what 4 things would you have someone consider as they are preparing to take this step or even leap?
Well, first, let me just say, I echo, Martin, you were amazing. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. And to Nick and Germaine, I so admire you all. You were so gutsy and you're so innovative, and to have a dream and a passion to bring your ideas to life is really inspiring for all of us. I just want to say thank you for your courage and your leadership and your example that you're setting for all of us. So, so my take on this is a little bit different. So I have been in corporate America working for biotech pharma for the last 36 years. And Germaine, I wrote down your website because I need that platinum.
You're gonna love it.
But so I really look at this from the vantage point of what are the things that I encourage everyone to do throughout the course of their career that I think prepares you for really getting off the bricks running, should you want to become an entrepreneur. And I would say the first is, I think it's been said, really spend time reflecting and thinking about what is it that you love to do? What is it that really you have passion about? And it could be, it could be a service. It could be something that you feel is lacking, that you want to just bring your gift to. It has to really be about what your gift is. And I think oftentimes women, we're so busy doing, we don't take time to reflect, because I think growing up, we were all like, if you're sitting being still, you're being idle, or, and I've learned that we're taking time to reflect and really think about, what is it I'm good at? What do I love to do? What do people tell me that I'm good at? They always say, you may not see it because it's so easy for you. But listen to others, ask others, what is it when you think about me? What is it that you think that I'm really good at? And begin to collect that information so that you can really say, this is what I really believe I have passion about. This is what people tell me I'm good at. And I really think that I have something here. So that would be the first thing. I would say the second thing is, while you're working, treat it as if you are gaining experiences for the company that you're going to run. And what I mean by that is, so over the course of my career, I've been in sales, been in marketing, I've been in HR, I've been in finance, I've been in, you name it, procurement, operations, finance. And that was just because that's how I started my career. I started in a management training program. And so I knew every, 9, 12, 16 months, 18 months, I'd be doing something different. So I think I learned early on that, you learn to do new things, you learn to have different experiences. And what that does is it helps you to walk a mile in someone else's shoes, so that when you're in marketing and you've been in finance, you know how to talk to get the money you need. And I think that if you vary your experiences and put lots of things in your toolkit, that will help you when you are, as an entrepreneur, one day you may be, I call it like you're building a house. One day you may be painting the walls. The other day, one day you're hanging drywall. The next day you're doing electricity. You have to be this sort of Jacqueline of all trades, so that you can really be able to do that until you can build the infrastructure with others who are good at those things. So I just say put tools in your toolkit so that you are really understanding some of those types of really necessary functions to run your own company or your own business. I would also say, when you're working in corporate America, you come across a lot of folks who have started their own business. They were a vendor and then they decided they were going to start their own business. Talk to them, pick their brain about what was it that made them do it? How did they do it? How did they get their first clients? Put them on your board of directors so that as you're thinking about what it is that you want to do, you can ask them those questions. And who knows, maybe they can become clients of yours should you decide to take this entrepreneur route. And I always, you can learn from their experiences, and you can also really use them for the advice when you do start your company. Look for people that have the experiences in different places and spaces that you can call on the phone and be like, I had this just happen and I'm not quite sure what to do. And they can help walk you through it. Because if you want to go through a minefield, you follow someone. They've been through that, so they can probably help you to get to where you want to go. And then I would say the last thing is get your financial house in order. Because, I was very fortunate. I started straight out of college and I have been saving since 1988 and company matching, for instance, 1988. And that gives you options. It gives you choices. And so maybe you haven't been, but you start where you are. Tomorrow, if you have a 401k plan, if you're still working, go and put 4% or whatever you can, and you won't miss it. It's Starbucks money, it's nail money, you won't miss it. Just decide that you're going to invest in you by putting this money away for your future. And then you can use that as your capital for your business or as collateral. And it's better to have that money set aside for that rainy day or for what I call the sunshine day, when you decide, you know what, I'm walking out of here and I'm going to use part of this money to start my own business. So those would be the things that I would say, because it's really important to invest in yourself first. We always invest in everyone else, and just look at that money you're putting aside, and hopefully there's a match. If there's a match, max it out. You're investing in yourself and in your future for what you want to do. So those would be the four things that I would share. And then the last thing I would say is just something that you said, Germaine, triggered Nelson Mandela's quote. I only win, I never fail, or I learn.
Mhm.
And if you look at it like that, it's all good. So anyway, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Now, since we have a few minutes, is there anything else either of you would like to add to what you've already said or to what someone else has said? Is there anything that anyone would like to add? Germaine or Nick or Caroline?
Yeah, there's a question, and someone, I think she was asking about how do you handle it when it's essentially when your expenses exceed your profit. And that happens. And but it goes back to what Caroline mentioned. You have to prepare now to have good credit score so that you can go and get money when you need it, because you will need it doing this entrepreneur journey. And then based on what Martin said, and I always tell my clients, start with the end in mind. And I had to do that establishing this the skincare line, having a clear vision. And because when you have a firm why, that'll get you through the tough times. And for me right now, it's building that legacy. So when I'm no longer here, my grandchildren's children will say, Nana did this. Nana provided this for me. So that's my why. And that's what keeps me going, even during the challenging times. Thank you. Nick?
Yeah, I think definitely echoing Germaine. I answered, I typed in always borrow money when you don't need it with a business. When you need it, just put yourself in the perspective of a banker. They want to get their money back plus. And if your numbers are like, I really, really need it, I'm not making, you're going to get denied. So that's why when you're riding high, apply for the loan. It's counterintuitive. But, as a business instructor, I pride myself on myth busting, and you would not be surprised how many people carry their personal financial, like old wives' tales into their business, like what they learned about finances in their personal, they carry it into their business. So, I always want to be a lender, not a borrower. Well, if you're really intentional about scaling your business, that's not practical. It's not practical all the time. And so I'll talk about, the collective, Bow Collective. These are, 200 of the nation's top 1% business owners. They happen to be Black, they happen to be women. We are in 24 states, 3 countries, and there are themes that they've done to scale their businesses. Anybody over $1 million as a small business, you are in the top 3% of all small businesses. And that scaling, that is really where, I believe our legacy is with the Bow Collective is the impact of having a successful business means it's really not about the wealth that you create. That's one element. You want to transfer wealth to next generations, but we're job creators. Like it's very easy for me to be a solopreneur and just employ myself. The scalability of businesses means I'm a job creator. I'm an influencer in my community. If I'm employing 3 people at great wages, they are able to get homes for themselves. They're able to have great tax bases for their children to go to great schools in. The ripple effect is real. Economic development. And that's the one thing that I didn't hear earlier, but it's the thing that sustains me. Is the fact that I believe that this is the key. It is the catalyst for generational wealth is when you build successful businesses that create jobs and impact our Black communities. You do have to borrow sometimes, right? If you want to not be a solopreneur, you want to be a job creator, sometimes you have to borrow so that you can hire, so that you can go out and get more work, so that you can be more productive. And that access to capital game is a little nerve-wracking to say the least. But when your why is generational wealth, when your why is economic empowerment for Black communities, for any communities, for American communities, right? So these women, we create thousands of jobs. And while we happen to be Black women, we don't just create Black jobs, although we're very proud of that. We create urban jobs, rural jobs, Black jobs, white jobs. We're in red states and blue states. And being a job creator, if that is your why, it helps you withstand the ups and the downs. It helps you give a vision for why you're borrowing, because it's not just about me. It's about my team members. It's about their families. I don't sleep at night so that my employees, my team members can do it. And I'm very, very happy to talk about not only, and I'm sorry, I'm taking a little longer, but not only about scaling, but what Bow has done, and I'll let you all in a little secret, is now we're not 200 individual businesses doing well. We are coming together and being a big business. So that is my next why, is the legacy of turning small businesses that are usually compete against each other. And now we are the nation's first 200 Black women invested, owned, and procurement consulting firm. We're launching that this month. It happens to be Women Business Month, but that's the legacy. When you do collaborate, when you stop thinking that there are crumbs out there, stop focusing on the crumbs and You're like, there's 99% of this business model out here that I didn't even focus on because I was competing off of the smallness. That mindset shift, there's so much richness in being able to work with Black women entrepreneurs and help re-energize our community through economic empowerment.
Thank you. Thank you for that. So we know that there are sometimes highs and lows with our profits. Is there any particular way, though, that you handle when you're in a high with your profits as opposed to the lows? Anybody?
Well, I'll take that. You know, business is very cyclical. I'll give a funny story. So when I owned my day spa that first year, Germaine, you'll love this. It was I had a line out the door of my day spa for gift certificates. And I was like, I'm rich. Like, oh my gosh, I got all this money. Child, I was in DC. I went to Georgetown into the Ritz, I think it's the Ritz-Carlton or Four Seasons. I booked myself a room. Had champagne, everything. And then January came and everybody, this is first like 4 months in business. Everybody, like every single body cashed in their gift card. I was like, oh my God, what happened? So I will say the moral to the story is, like our friend Caroline said, please save for that rainy day. Learn the cycles of your business. There're just so many economic things. We've gone through the pandemic. I'm a cancer survivor. There's so many things that can take you out of the game of your own business. So just being anticipatory and that balance, creating your own balance through the cycles. And don't be like Nick, like don't go to the Ritz-Carlton and spend your gift card money.
That
20
reminds
years ago, though, I have to say that was 20 years ago. I have learned from that.
Yes.
that reminds me, a friend of mine told me a long time ago, he said, even when you're up, act like you're poor.
Yes.
Operate your business like you're poor, but for me, I've been very fortunate that I've been able to borrow from within my various companies. If one company is in need, I will loan it to the other company, do an agreement, and then pay it back and pay it back. And so I've been really fortunate with that. So and like what Nick said earlier, it is about us supporting one another. I was just talking to a client, she's Korean. Today, she called me to say how much she loved the product. And she was saying how in the Korean culture, they will take 10 people and it's called, I think she said Jetta. And what they do is you can only afford $500 a month. This person may have better means. They may contribute $10,000 a month, and they keep putting in this pot.
Mhm.
And each have a turn to take that money, and it's not a loan. It's for you to buy a house, send your child to college. And I think that this is something that we as a community need to learn how to do better, and that's really support one another a little bit better, not just talk it, but really be active with supporting one another in our businesses.
Yes, very nice. Very good. Very good advice. And I often heard Earl Graves from Black Enterprise used to say, always save and invest, save and invest, save and invest. And you're always preparing for the ups and the downs.
Yes.
So do we have any questions from our audience? I didn't see anything in the chat at this time. Let's check and look again. I think that we've answered pretty much everything. Well, thank you. This has been extremely informative and amazing conversation. I hope all of you have been inspired just as I have. Now we have 2 more webinars remaining for this month. The webinars are held every Thursday this month at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. We invite you to register to join us and invite others to join us. Thank you to our instructor, our panelists, our sponsors, and our national collaborating organizations. Martin, I see you are back. Is there anything that you would like to say?
No final words. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
All right. And do we have any slides from the businesses of our panelists that we can share? They're the I Know Skincare Treatment Solutions, the Bold Collective, and Caroline DeMarco. Thank you so much to all of our panelists. Thank you to our sponsors and national collaborating organizations. I also appreciate all of you for joining us, whether you're watching on Zoom, Facebook, or YouTube. Thank you, thank you, thank you, and have a wonderful evening.
Same to you, Rosalind. Thank you.
Thank you.